want to thank everybody for joining us today for our virtual investor meeting today with Intrommune Therapeutics. Intrammune's patented platform delivers allergens through a familiar daily routine, which is brushing your teeth. It's a consumer health company developing a novel approach to peanut allergy prevention. And by administering the controlled exposure through toothpaste, the technology will train the immune system and aims to prevent life-threatening peanut allergies through this very simple and consumer-friendly delivery method. So as far as the company goes, it's developing a consumer-grade immunotherapy platform. It will make allergy prevention safe, simple, and scalable. They're combining biotech-grade science with this everyday consumer habit of brushing your teeth. There is early clinical validation, early commercial traction, companies booking revenues, and also a scalable distribution model. The company is positioned at the intersection of biotech innovation and consumer health. And this is definitely addressing one of the fastest growing health challenges globally. What differentiates Intrommune? A few things. Clinically validated approach. In their phase 1 peanut allergy study, patients achieved 97% adherence with 0 dropouts and 0 cases of anaphylaxis. Early commercial traction. The company has already started generating revenue through distribution channels. There's a 2-pronged go-to-market strategy. It's both a consumer distribution through physicians, as well as, well, it's both consumer and physician channels, so that we can get more broadly adopted while maintaining clinical credibility. It's a very large market, as many of you know. Over 33 million Americans suffer from food allergies, with the majority continuing to rise, and there are limited prevention solutions available. The company has first mover consumer platform. It's the only biotech grade allergy immunotherapy delivered in a consumer ready toothpaste format. Public market potential. As the company is scaling its commercial footprint, leadership is actively evaluating a potential public listing, direct listing, which Michael will talk about. And finally, experienced leadership. The company is led by seasoned executives and advisors with deep experience across biotech, healthcare, and consumer health. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to CEO and founder Michael Nelson. Michael, thank you for joining us today and sharing the opportunity.
Tian, I appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate everyone taking the time on this Monday afternoon or Monday almost afternoon to listen to me talk about Intrommune Therapeutics. As Tian mentioned, we are developing a novel food exposure platform. It's a combination of both toothpaste and supplements that are rubbed on infants' gums in terms of the supplement for food allergy management, treatment, and prevention. I do have an excellent team, very experienced. In addition to myself, I have Dr. Berger. He's worked on over 200 clinical trials. He's a well-known allergist, past president of the ACAAI. Miles McLennan is heading up our operations, and our first product go-to-market, he's developing all the go-to-market plans. Chris Schuster is our CFO. Michelle Matthews is our controller. They're going to be really key because we're about to go into an audit, and it's pretty important to get that for some of the financings that we're planning on doing. Dr. Berglund, Eric, is on right now as our Chief Science Officer, is one of the co-founders of the company. But we also have chemistry and manufacturing, and we have a fantastic advisory board. Dr. Gupta is well known in prevention and the costs of food allergies. She's an expert. Dr. Blaze is also a past president of the ACAAI, used to work at Pfizer for their OTC market. Dr. Insel is expert on prevention as well. Dr. Chinthraja is Sean Parker Institute. She's a director there and a professor at Stanford. And Dr. Weiss is actually in the process. He's a physician. He's doing a roll-up backed by private equity of allergy practices and has been a big supporter of the company. Food allergies are a huge and growing problem. Estimates as many as 500 million people worldwide, 33 million people in the US. 1 in 10 people, about 1 in 13 children, have at least one food allergy. These are 9 top food allergens. And then something that people have been talking about a lot more is red meat allergy, also known as alpha-gal syndrome. And that is actually it's a little different set off by a tick bite. And it's an area that we're starting to look into research and getting a lot of interest. The cost, and it's not just the $22,000 per child per year in direct and indirect costs. It's the constant fear that people have, the constant fear parents have, that parents have clinically higher blood pressure if their children have food allergies. It completely disrupts your life. It results in hundreds of thousands of emergency room visits every year, just because of food allergies. We're going to market with 3. We have 3 pipeline products, or our focuses. The first is our physician kit, which we actually have already manufactured. We're going to the market initially, testing it with doctors, get their feedback, and then the official launch will be end of this year. But that product, as Tian mentioned, we're already getting revenue. We had first sales into Canada, which wasn't even in our marketing plan originally. And that might actually get reimbursed, which is fantastic for the patient. Early on is for the younger kids, it's a supplement that's rubbed onto children's gums. And then older children, again, it's a toothpaste embedded with protein to really get that early exposure and help prevent food allergies. And then our long-term plans is RX. That's a multi-billion-dollar product. It will be multi-food, and we will go through the full FDA approval process for that. So the kit that I just held up, I have to put it in front of me so you can actually see it. But this is what the doctor gets. It's not what the patient gets. The doctor gets the compounding kit. It has a base paste, toothpaste in it. It's the same paste we use in our clinical trial I'll talk about later. To that, they add protein. They mix it up, and then they transfer it over to a tube. And the patient takes home a tube of toothpaste, and they just use the product once or twice per day. There'll be a sticker here that the doctor puts on with the patient's name, their name, and what protein they put into the toothpaste. If they add fluoride, they just add the fluoride sticker, which is also on here, onto the tube of toothpaste. And this is all the patient takes home. So it's really easy for the patient. Just brush your teeth like you normally would. This is the promotional messaging that we're going out to the market with. So it's physician-led customization. We're not telling the physicians what to put into it, just how to calculate if they put, to get a certain amount of milligrams of protein exposure per dose, but it's completely led by the physician. The goal here is precise food exposure for the patient. It integrates right into the patient's daily routine of toothbrushing, and it's non-invasive. You spit out the toothpaste. Patients who are we targeting? The initial target, the main target was patients who are completing oral immunotherapy. That's eating what you're allergic to reduce your risk of accidentally eating the foods that you're allergic to. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but to actually teach the body not to react, you give them low amounts of the protein and slowly build up a desensitization to it. It causes lots of adverse events, but there are a lot of patients who have done what's known as oral immunotherapy, and then they do it for 2 or 3 years. The doctor charges $5,000 to $12,000 per year. And the end of the 2 or 3 years, they're told, go home and eat a peanut every day to maintain your exposure. And about half those patients aren't doing that. And so by using the toothpaste, they at least maintain some level of exposure. The goal is to be very friendly to patients. Because you're not swallowing it, you're going to get a lot less of the systemic effects. It's really helpful for teenagers who are heading to university, when people are traveling, people who just want a discrete option. You don't have to feel like you're sick. Kids with food allergies are often bullied, unfortunately. If you have a sensory aversion to eating what you're allergic, people who are, food allergic, not allergic, they don't want to eat what they're allergic to. And they get really tired of eating the food. So they have food fatigue, and it gets very difficult to maintain that desensitization. And then, other possibilities, over 100,000 people have gone on Xolair. It's a anti-IgE product. It's a painful injection every 2 to 4 weeks. And it only works while you're taking it. It's not disease modifying. So this is a great way for patients who are doing biologics to also get that food exposure and actually have some potentially some disease modification. So that bridge to biologics is really interesting. We expect there to be a number of biologics coming out onto the market. Right now, it's just Xolair. Xolair is going to be going generic soon. There was a company, Therapeutics, just got bought for $2.2 billion, has another version of a longer lasting IgE. But the biologics, they're not disease modifying. You have to keep taking them. And some of them just really knock out your immune system. So people, especially young children, aren't going to go on those for life. So this is a great bridge you could start on a biologic and then switch over to food. In fact, the Outmatch study, that's exactly what they had you do. That's the study that got Xolair approved for food allergies. And at the end of it, they were saying, all right, switch over to real food. But again, within 12 months, half the patients weren't eating the protein anymore, and they were right back where they started. And those biologics could be, $50,000, $100,000 a year. Insurance isn't, is going to have a hard time paying for that, and they're going to try to push you off. So we've been talking to some of the companies that are out there. They think this is a great way to actually get more people to go on the biologics because, if they only have to go on it for 3 or 6 months, or only go on it when they expect to be at risk. They're traveling, they're going off to college, but the rest of the time they maintain exposure with our food kits, our physician kits. So, it can increase the number of patients going on biologics, and it's a win-win-win for the pharmaceutical company, for us, and for the patient. Talked about the seamless integration and ease of long-term maintenance. Increases patient choices. Patients want choices, what they can do. Most patients right now just avoid. Treatment is just too difficult. It maintains that strong and enduring doctor-patient relationship. As I was saying, after 2 or 3 years, those patients were going off and not eating the tree nuts or the proteins or whatever they were allergic to. This maintains the relationship, and you could keep up with the patient. And it also improves patient economics. We had some practices do some analysis, and they think that per allergist, they can make as much as an additional $100,000. So that's real money for physicians. This is an image from our ordering site. It actually is live. We've already had engagement with about 9%, or representatives of about 9% of U.S. allergists. So we expect some really great interest. We started offering it we shipped it out to Canada. Our real friends and pilot launch, friends and family launch, which is people we know well, doctors, allergists, because it's only going to the allergist offices. Can start, we expect in April, ordering the product with the formal launch at the ACAAI at the end of this year after we get feedback. And we'll actually put our brand name on the kits and go to market with that. We expect uptake as doctors get used to trying this, when they come out with protocols, because we can't give doctors protocols. They have to come up with their own. So once doctors start sharing those protocols, once a patient's on it, they're going to be on it for multiple years. So revenue builds on top of itself. And what's really interesting, the group in Canada, not only do they expect to get reimbursement for it, but they're doing real world evidence studies paid for by a foundation. So as we get that data, we're going to be presenting it. So we're really excited about these kits. Those are going to start, we're going to start seeing some nice revenue from the kits. The second product is the early on products, the supplements and toothpaste for early food exposure. about 40% of children at a high risk of developing food allergies. We know who those are. Those are kids with eczema. They're with family members with food or respiratory or even asthma. So there's, we could target those 40%. And we know, for example, peanut protein, if you give that at a young age, you could reduce the risk of food allergies by over 80%. But you can't do it once. You have to keep doing it. The FDA even allows a qualified claim for feeding peanut protein to children to reduce the risk of food allergies. We estimate the market size for this to be about $13 billion. We think the peak sales for our product would be about $270 million just in the US. We would be charging $50 per month. So we're excited about potential for this. But what's really exciting is we could actually save people from having a lifetime of fear, and they'll just never even know that they would have been food allergic. They just avoid it completely. Our first product is very early on. It's going to be a supplement for 1 to 12 months old. Parents are told from a young age, rub your kids' gums, clean the gums. So this is, again, right, built into their routine. It's going to have a low amount of peanut protein on it. We spoke with our advisory board. We really wanted people to have eaten peanuts first and then try our product. And everyone's like, no, this should be the first product because it's consistent, low dose exposure. It also, we could go much younger, right? Kids can't eat foods that they're, the 4 to 6 months is the recommendation if you're at high risk of food allergies because they can't go younger. And these products will allow children to go as young as 1 month and get that exposure, particularly if they're very high risk. And then the second product is for 6 months and over, and that has cashew, hazelnut, and walnut, and those are selected because they are expected to give universal protection to tree nuts. We will in the future add additional foods, and then as you get older, we have products that will be training toothpaste and toothpaste to maintain that exposure. But the real important thing is you can't just do it once. You have to do it multiple times. If you give a kid a peanut or exposure to peanut, I should say, and then you stop, you've actually sensitized them at that point. So it's really important. And that's part of the issue why parents just can't do it. You give them a peanut, then you have to keep doing it. You give them tree nuts. Well, every day you're going to have to give them, or a few times a week, multiple tree nuts. And it just gets really hard. So even in clinical studies, you only had about 40% adherence, which is unheard of low adherence. So we have this unique selling proposition, can go as early as 1 month of age. We overcome a lot of the barriers for fussy eating. The infant one, the first one's going to be watermelon flavored, which is something that most kids like, and align with the WHO guidelines of exclusive breastfeeding. I'm going to just go over this quickly, but our competition is food, right? And people should, when kids are older, after 6 months where you're supposed to be solely breastfed or really solely on formula, you should be eating these foods. There's a number of brands out there that are trying to make early food introduction easy. They're often about $100 a month, so higher than we're planning on going. And we encourage people to eat those foods or eat the real foods. But what we found is, and what doctors have found is parents just can't do it. It's just too much. And you want to maintain that regular exposure. So it's really important. And our goal is just to make that more convenient. Providers, we surveyed allergists and pediatricians. Nearly 90% said that they were willing to either recommend early on or even offer it in their office. We offer localized administration of the targeted allergen. We're specifically formulated for children, so the youngest one is fully ingestible, controlled quantity, and delivered conveniently. Our plan is to go to physicians and save them time, right? They don't have time to teach the patients about the importance of early food exposure. By giving their patients, their children, other patients, if they're pediatricians, this product, they will have healthier patients. And then we could also, because this is a consumer product, we could actually share revenue. So we'll have a QR code and we'll be able to follow it through to know what doctor recommended that patient, and we could share revenue. In this case, maybe it's $5,000 of revenue for a pediatrician, but $5,000 for a pediatrician is real revenue. So our first target is pediatricians, pediatric dentists, pediatric allergists. Well, actually, all allergists, because if they have a patient with allergy, their kids are at higher risk. So those will be the first patients we go to. Just a QR code, so we don't have to have a lot of product. And parents and guardians will be given a pamphlet by their doctor, and then go to our website, and they could order from the website, and we'll ship it from our drop location. And then finally, our therapeutic. This works by contacting the Langerhans cells in the mouth. We take the allergenic proteins, we incorporate it into a toothpaste base, stabilizes the protein. It's administered while they brush their teeth. We contact about 12 times the surface area as sublingual, but about 16 times the number of Langerhans cells. Those are the cells that pick up these proteins, bring it actually into the lymphatic system. So in our clinical trial, we did a phase 1 study. We kind of got phase 2 data out of it because the FDA allowed us to extend it. We had no moderate or severe systemic reactions. That compares to Palforzia, which was doing oral immunotherapy. It's actually coming off the market because it had patients just didn't want to use it. They had 14% of patients needing emergency epinephrine. We had 97% adherence. The number one reason people didn't adhere is we told them not to use it. For example, if they had a fever. We also were able to do a subset of the population where we actually got to test them for desensitization. And there was about 14 patients that we tested total, but only 5 that were double-blinded at entry and exit because the FDA allowed us to modify the study as we were going along. And all 3 of the ones on active were able to get to 600 milligrams of peanut protein. That's the max we tested. So they very well could have gone higher. We also saw a statistically significant change in IgG4, which shows that we're actually impacting the immune system. And none of the patients dropped out because of the product, which, compared to OIT, about 20-25% drop out just because of stomach aches and anaphylaxis and other issues. When we came out with our data at the ACAAI, we were the most talked about presentation. We were on 900 TV, cable, radio shows within 36 hours. We actually stopped counting because it's costing us too much money every time we got another hit, and we had to pay for it to just collect the data. So we were talked about quite a bit, which gives us confidence that we're going to be talked about and become really good story stock when eventually we bring this product to market or we take the company public. This is some of the competition. I mentioned Palforzia. That was a product by Immune. It's bought by Nestle for $2.6 billion and is now unfortunately coming off the market because people don't want to eat what they're allergic to. And the doctors were already feeding patients food. So there are a lot of patients who are doing oral immunotherapy, but then Immune basically became competition for them. We're actually a new revenue source for those doctors. Alladapt was trying to do 15 foods at once and was getting pretty good results. But again, you had to eat it. And so they've come off the market. So interesting, DBV is a skin patch. And if you take a look at their stock price, they've gone way up over the last year because they may actually make it to market. That product only works in 7 and younger. The data I was talking about before, that was all for adults. And then Novartis and Genentech, for example, they make omalizumab. That's Xolair. And we think eventually that we're going to get to partner with companies, if not them, some of their competition. But there's lots of discussions going on behind the scenes. Healthcare providers and professionals, they would use our product. patients would use our product. So these are some quotes and a survey of patients done actually by Allergy and Asthma Network, not by us. We have 53 patents to date. That number continues to grow. We filed some new IP, so we expect some extended protection, and this is global protection. This is our pipeline. We've actually already rolled out with the physician kits, the physician-based kits, but the official launch is going to be at the end of this year. Very early on, we've developed the protein for it. We have to work on the product. Money that we're bringing in now, we need another $1 million of development expenses. Once we get that money, then we need about 9 months to get that product to market. We will work up in age. We will also add additional foods, and then we're looking at other formats for delivering the protein as well. And then longer term, much longer term, but is our therapeutic toothpaste. But we're looking at partnering and government grants for those programs. Nearly 90% of healthcare providers are willing to offer early on, so we're really excited about that product. The Intrommune kits, they're launching the year end, but we're starting to get revenue already. And then our therapeutic has blockbuster potential, meaning over $1 billion a year in sales. We get very high margins. We expect cash flow break even within 3 years on the first two products, on the physician kits and the early on products. Financing alternatives. So I think the reason why most of you are here. We are right now doing $1 per common share. We have 22 million shares outstanding, approximately 10 million of options, so they haven't all been issued. But on a fully diluted basis, we're 32 million shares. This is we're closing this down in 1 week. So if you want to participate, you need to let us know right away. We've been talking to Tien and Opus for a while now. So you're hearing about this right at the end, but we are shutting this down in a week. So let us know. We do expect revenue from sales of the Intrommune Plus kits. As Tien mentioned, we are considering public listing. We have engaged an investment bank, and there can be no assurance, of course, but that is something that we're actively exploring. We're also looking at asset-backed loan. We have engaged a broker who's done evaluation who thinks we could support 10 million of debt. That's non-dilutive capital. Really want to see some revenue first, which is what we're about to go into. So that's another revenue source. And then we will be applying for government grants, though that money wouldn't come in until year end or next year. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Yeah. Before we do that, let's we're going to do a poll. So for those of you who are interested in the opportunity, let's go ahead and indicate. We have 4 answers. One is very interested. Let's follow up. Let's do a follow-up meeting. Interested, would like more information. Not interested, but have some investors who might be interested, and then not interested at all. I know we have something like 20-something investors on here. If we could get maximum participation, that would be helpful. We're not going to share these results with anybody, just strictly with Michael. And with that, we can kick things off. We have a few questions already. Anyone who's got questions, you can either raise your hand and we'll call on you, or you can put the question right into the chat. The first question is from Lawrence. How long does the treatment take to be effective?
Yeah, so for the physician kits, we're just selling it without any claims. That's why we don't need any FDA approval. But we do know from like oral immunotherapy, it's a buildup over time. So we're estimating that for the therapeutic, for INT302, that we're going to start. We'll be able to do the first testing in about 6 months. For the prevention, you want to start that and do it for at least a couple of months. It's been shown that if you in the LEAP study, if you do that for, in that study, they started a little later, but if you do that from like 6 months to 5 years, you get that full reduction. If you stop after a year, then some of that protection goes away, but it's still, I think it was over 70%. So, I think for the early on product, it's going to be at least a few months, but ideally you should do it for a couple of years. For the therapeutic, it happens, the protection builds up over time. And we think even in the clinical study, every 2 weeks we were updosing and they were getting protection. But those patients, some of them might want to stay on that product for the rest of their lives.
Got it. Have a couple questions on revenue, Michael. Mike asks, when will you have revenue? And Kevin is similarly wants additional clarity on your go-to-market strategy and your revenue plan. And tied to that, I had a question DM to me about the timeline to get the kits fully commercialized at scale. So I guess that's all, those 3 points are all
So the
interrelated.
revenue, we expect to bring in the first revenue in April. We've actually already shipped out kits and got them through customs in Canada. So those will be the first ones. We are talking with a number of physician groups, and so we expect those sales to, larger amounts of sales to start in April. We're using those doctors to give us feedback and tweak the kits. Our expectation is the full launch, as I said, is November. We're, for year end, or for this year, we're not expecting a huge dollar number of sales, but that builds on itself very quickly. So everyone who uses it this year, those same patients will use it next year. Plus, then we'll have doctors who have had experience in talking about it. We're getting a lot of interest. So we expect those sales to ramp very quickly over the next 2 years. But the answer is, in terms of the launch, we will be ready for the launch. I mean, we're already manufacturing. What's going to change is the name on the box. So print out new boxes. And then if we need to tweak, for example, the amount of paste that goes in, but we don't expect any major changes in the product. But for the go-to-market, each product has a different go-to-market, right? And I should mention, one of the questions was timing for the kits. It's food exposure, right? So most of those patients have already been desensitized. We are getting doctors asking about doing updosing with them, or they've already been on, a biologic. So, this is just giving real food exposure to kind of maintain that exposure and protection. But we have plans for the early on, but that product we don't expect to be on the market till middle of next year. It's all based on timing of getting revenue in, and we'll have the fully developed plans. But that product ramps up even faster than the therapeutic. Than the kits, because we're just getting so much incoming interest. And then obviously the therapeutic is still several years from market, though, we could get cash from pharmaceutical companies that want to partner with us. So I'm not sure if I answered that question fully, because there was a lot of components to it.
Yeah. Kevin, is that okay? Or did you have a follow-up?
That was fine. I was trying to get a better understanding of the rollout in terms of revenue or revenue predictions. As the company is growing and rolling out different products to the marketplace, it wasn't clear when these revenues will hit and how much they will account for your overall.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be a little careful, because in case we do go public and talking about these projections, but we're not assuming a lot of sales this year. We're assuming just like 400,000 in sales this year. That's a multiple of that next year, when we really, because the launch isn't really till the end of the year for the kits. Our DCF analysis for just those 2 products and not the therapeutic is a couple $100 million. So this is a substantial discount to that number.
Okay, thank you. I had a follow-on question, but I'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Kev. How much capital are you raising this round? What specific milestones does it fund? And what specifically makes you confident that a direct listing is the right path versus a traditional IPO or reverse merger at your current stage?
Yeah. So we're really just looking for a little cash to get us through the next month or two. We have tax credit that's coming in that should be in the end of next month. And the focus for us is getting some cash to fund the audit and for some intellectual property costs. I'd like to spend a little bit more, add some more countries, but that's the main focus for the cash right now. A direct listing versus an IPO, we're not big enough for an IPO. You need kind of like the traditional VCs in your cap table, and that's just not the position that we're in. It's not the position we necessarily want to be in either, right? Because a VC would have taken control of the company, and we wouldn't have been able to pivot the way we have to these other products. We have because we're going to be such a great story in terms of toothpaste to prevent and treat food allergies, and we get a lot of news flow, and we will have a lot of news flow. We'll have additional products rolling out. The launch of the kits at the year end. We'll have the very early on. We'll have additional foods. Well, there's constant news. We're going to have real world evidence studies that are coming out. We'll do some safety studies for the early on product. So we're going to have, and then we expect some grants as well. So we'll have constant news flow, which will make, if we do decide to do the direct listing, would make us a really good story for that. I think I'm trying to remember what the rest of the question was. It was traditional IPO
or reverse merger at your
reverse
current
merger.
stage.
So with the reverse merger, that's a possibility, but each time you do that, it's here's I think for the most part we're in this interesting dichotomy where we have a consumer product and a therapeutic, and it's very confusing for a direct listing to be able to, like, what are they focused on, and there aren't all that many not direct listing, reverse mergers. There aren't all that many shells out there that have cash to do it. I mean, we would do this direct listing in combination with some funding as well. So.
Got it. Okay. Kevin has another question. What's your exit strategy and timeline?
Yeah, I mean, if we were to go public, I mean, the plan would be this year, right? So if we're successful with that, it's this year. So if that's what you mean by exit, and my attorney is on. So Andy, if you want to chime in, I don't want to say anything I shouldn't be saying. But so that's one possibility. Otherwise, we see the company kind of getting split with the consumer, and potentially selling to consumer in 2 to 3 years, a consumer goods, CPG company, or the therapeutic we get through phase 2 and then partner or sell that to large pharma. So our goal will be, our preference would be this year as the exit.
I have a question for you here, Michael. You're saying that you're thinking of an exit. What I heard is that by the end of the year, you probably somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000 in revenue. How do you plan to go, public on that, and what kind of multiplier are you thinking?
Yeah, it's obviously the multiplier will be off of revenue projections or EBITDA projections for a few years from now. We would only do a direct listing if it came along with an investment from a large investor. So that's we engaged investment banker to work on that. But if that's successful, and we also have the potential for the asset-backed loan, we wouldn't need cash to do the kits or the early on product. We wouldn't need additional cash for a year and a half, 2 years. Now, that's not to say we wouldn't, I'm of the belief that you take what cash you can get. You never know what's going to happen in the markets, but our expectation is whatever route we end up taking, we choose to take, we will be getting enough capital to fund the company for a year and a half, 2 years, improve revenue, grow sales, prove that we could bring these products to market. I mean, we've already manufactured the kits, so, and we have supplies to manufacture enough kits for this year, for the revenue that we've projected.
Got it. Sean had a question. You mentioned Alpha Gel, Lone Star Tick. What is your path to this solution, the timing, and is it mechanistically the same as the nut mechanism?
Yeah, it is an IG-mediated disease, so it is believed to be the same. The difference is alpha-gal is a carbohydrate and not a protein, and there's still a lot that needs to be learned about it. The theory is the same, that exposure, you would actually combine the alpha-gal in some way, with something that would allow it to be picked up by the oral Langerhans cells. We have a group that wants to test the product, and we are considering that. But we do think it's a 5 or 6 year timeline, but there's a lot of funding out there for tick-borne illnesses. So there is more uncertainty on the alpha-gal side, but there's also a lot of upside. I think people are still saying it's potentially an orphan indication because of the number of people that have it, but I think the next time they do an analysis, it's not going to be orphan anymore because there's just so many people that are getting the ticks that cause it, mostly the Lone Star tick in the U.S. They're expanding throughout the U.S. So a lot more people are getting it. It used to be a Southeast United States issue. Now it's Long Island. I mean, it's spreading all over. So.
Thank you. Question: what is Plan B if the direct listing does not occur?
Yeah, we are looking at the asset-backed loan, so kicking off sales, getting revenue. It's much slower, but there's a risk. I mean, we will need more cash. We probably, if we get the audit done, we would potentially even look at going out to the market through like a crowd bring in $5 million. But we would then need to go back to the market one way or the other to if we can't do an asset-backed loan or direct listing, we would need to go back to our investors and others to try to get cash, or we've been talking to some companies and potentially sell to them.
Got it. Another question here. Are there any strategic investors or pharma partners already engaged or in discussions?
We have discussions with large pharma, very preliminary. We have discussions with what I'd call mid-size, very preliminary. Though some of those would be maybe to distribute, either distribute the kits or compound the kits. We've talked to a number of compounders. People are familiar with compounders now through GLP-1s, but this is a product that we could get to a lot more doctors. Not all the doctors compound food proteins in their office. Only about 500 or so doctors are doing that. So this would open up to a lot more physicians. And then we have discussions with what I'd call smaller that are really interesting. I just can't give a lot of details on it.
Got it. All right. Anyone else have any questions? We do have some time if anyone would like to raise their hand and ask or type into the chat box. Anyone have any burning additional questions for Michael? And also, if you haven't answered the poll, if you could do that, that would be great. I see we still have a few people that haven't answered the poll. And again, it's confidential. We will only share those results with management. Any other comments, thoughts, questions? Michael, any last words? I think it was a pretty
Yeah.
comprehensive
First,
update.
thank you for joining. We're excited, and we know that these products. I mean, we already have the kits out there, which is starting to garner a lot of interest. But the prevention products as well are something that the market desperately needs, and we're looking for a little bit of funding just to get us through the very short term, but we have plans that we're hopeful will provide very nice upside to anybody who puts some cash in right now.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, with that, we can go ahead and adjourn. We will follow up with everybody with an email with the link to this recording. So thank you guys for joining, and also with the deck as well. And I appreciate everyone's answering the polls. We have tons of interest here, so that's good. And with that, we'll go ahead and end the call, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.